Hey yo, what's up guys, John Boogle here. Here we are with the Into the Future Chapter 2 Floating Continent Guide. Now in the Great Abyss guide, I explained how you can get away with having minimal treasures, but here, you will need to get all of the treasures, especially if you have low level units like I do here. Even at the minimum, just get the 2 alien crystals for Chapter 2. Of course, Into the Future Chapter 1, you'll need all of those treasures. Empire of Cats, you'll need all of those treasures. That goes without saying, but at least do go back for Chapter 2 and get both of the alien crystals, and then you'll be kind of okay. This is the most important part, so make sure you do get it done. Most of the other treasures here is going to be irrelevant for the stage, except for maybe the angel one, but this floating one will be very helpful for Moon, and the rest will be helpful for SOL and later on. So eventually, you're going to have to come back and get all of them. And not just get them, I mean get them maxed out to superior. They gotta be all gold. Once again, big reminder, previous treasures, make sure they are all superior as well. Going in with level 20s means any advantage counts, so you'll need it. But yeah, that is the most important thing out of the way. Let's hop into the actual lineup explanation. Now, this is just an example lineup. Do not copy this and just go into the stage. I'm using this as an example lineup to explain some things here. As always, let's first start off with your meat shields, aka your stallers. If you have Rover, this will be tremendously helpful for this because Rover is a great anti-alien staller and meat shield. Ramen can also help out in this level if you don't have Crazed Wall or Crazed Stallers. If you don't have any Crazed Cats, then you're gonna have to rely on gacha units. The Crazed Cats are fairly easy to get even right after Empire of Cats Chapter 3. There's guides for it right here. Cameraman can work as a staller and meat shield / attacker because of its high survivability and its great stack DPS. So if you don't have something like Crazed Wall, Rover, Ramen, you can use Cameraman. If you do have Rover's true form, it will definitely help out a lot, but there are other key gachas you can focus on as well. Being a meat shield and having the strong ability against aliens is pretty helpful. Now let's talk about the crowd control units. Here the prime example being Psycho Cat, and we're pairing that up with Majika Cat or on Myoji's second form. You can use both of these at level 1, but it is pretty risky because the peons are in much more abundance compared to Into the Future Chapter 1's Floating Continent. I found that getting it to just at least level 10 makes it survive a hit from the peons much more consistently. Now the reason we're bringing Majika Cat here because during the downtimes where Neo Psycho is not able to get the slow proc off, we're gonna have the weaken proc up. So that just allows Bore to not kill your whole stack in a matter of seconds if you do happen to miss a couple slows. Now the ultimate crowd control unit for this stage is Castaway. It works as a crowd control unit and a main attacker because it has that freeze and it has that great DPS against aliens as well, against pretty much most enemies. I do use this as a general attacker a good amount, and I did use this unit as an example attacker in my Crazed Tank guide. So at the bare minimum, make sure you have at least 1 or 2 crowd control units. Once again, crowd control units are units that slow, freeze, knock back, and weaken. Ubers with those abilities can also play the crowd control role in this level, so you can replace either the legends we're using here, like Bahamut with an Uber that has freeze, knockback, or weaken against aliens. Always remember that you don't have to strictly follow the lineup. I never intentionally make my guide so you have to follow it in a 1-to-1 ratio, even all the older ones, but people didn't understand that and I didn't explain it, so here I am with the Redux guide explaining that a bit more. So yes, if you do have Ubers that can crowd control aliens, even if it's just a great damage dealer, pretty much anything is better than Bahamut here. And if you don't have Odorun Wolf, you can slot in an Uber. Pretty much any Uber will work here. If Bahamut works, most of the Ubers will work as well. Even if you just bring nuking Ubers and high damage dealing ones, just make sure you do have your crowd control units as well. Unless you're using something like Balrog or Rushers, which can just completely demolish the stage. Crazed Dragon here is just an extra attacker, and you can replace it with pretty much any other attacker like Paris or even regular dragon. And like I mentioned before, if you don't have the Crazed meat shields, you can just replace it with any other meat shield. But that's pretty much it. Just have at least 3 meat shields, 1 to 2 crowd control units, your 2 main attackers, whether that be Drama Cats, Crazed Dragon, Castaway, Paris, Pole Vaulter, Crazed UFO, Crazed Legs, Cameraman. There's a lot. Then you could bring your legends or Ubers, like our legends we're using in this lineup is Bahamut and Wolf. You don't have to use them, so don't panic. You can replace them with better Ubers, because I'm sure you do have better Ubers. And if you don't, well, you can just use Bahamut. It goes without saying, true forms will tremendously help. Units like Can, Ramen, Cyberpunk, and even stuff like Cyborg. Chillcat is a great attacker for this stage. Pizza, and if you don't have the gachas, then you can just rely on Crazed UFO, which is a great high damage AoE attacker. With its large DPS, it could shred through pretty much all the peons in this stage and even the boar. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up the lineup explanation. And if you're wondering, Ninja Cat, if you do have it, you can use it, but don't rely on it as a main attacker. And if you have Courier, then you win. Alright, let's hop into the strategy here. It is very, very similar to Floating Continent in Chapter 1. This time the only issue being the peons are much more of a threat, because this time we are dealing with a massive wave of cyberhorns, which can be difficult to take down with such low levels. That's why the treasures are super important over here. In the beginning, as always, we want to get our cash at the absolute maximum and get our wallet maxed. So you will have to do a balancing act with these angel enemies in the beginning here, trying not to push too hard while also not trying to get your base destroyed. Ramen is pretty helpful in this area. You basically just want to cripple these hippos as much as possible until you get your Bahamut, and then, or whatever other attacker you're using for your Uber slot. Then you can just take out these hippos with ease, and then you'll have a lot of time to save some cash. Now, after you take out these hippos, you still do not want to push forward, because if you aren't using Rich Cat, your cash in a wallet is still probably not maxed. So you want to hold it out a bit and not push too hard. Another thing here is start stacking up your crowd control units. If you stack them up early, you'll have a higher chance to slow when the boar comes out. So that's what we're doing here. Stacking up all the crowd control units. In this lineup example, we're using Neo Psycho Cats and of course Castaway. And pay attention to our meat shielding here. We're not spamming way too much. We are sending them out sparingly because there is a cat limit issue in this level. Once you hit the base, there's a high chance you will hit the cat limit. That means when Boar comes out, he will just shred through everything in the front, and by the time you wait for the cat limit to go back down, Boar is already getting to your main attackers, and your meat shields from all the way back at your base won't be able to get up in time. So make sure you use your meat shield sparingly here, and make sure you want to prioritize your crowd control units like here. Now when Boar comes out, it is pretty RNG based here. You do have to get kind of lucky and hope your stack gets a slow proc off, gets a freeze proc, or whatever you need. There's a chance that you miss all of the slow procs, all of the freeze procs, and everything, and Boar just kills Bahamut. But that's exactly why we have our second slot in attacker here, which is Wolf. Once again, like I explained in the lineup explanation, you can replace with any other attacker or Uber, and we'll go over some other strategy explanations here and lineup examples later on. But yeah, as you can see, the main threat of this level is the Boar, but it's also the Cyberhorns. The moth in the back isn't too much of a threat because it can be killed in a matter of seconds with all the treasures. But the issue is, as you can see, these Cyberhorns keep on spawning, and if your DPS is not high enough, you will not be able to take them out in time. That means they'll start stacking up, and that becomes a huge issue because they start pushing with Boar. But yeah, as you can see, Crazed Whale paired with a Castaway, Bahamut, and Wolf is able to completely destroy the Boar there. The Dragon stack also very helpful here as well. It is able to outrange the moth as well, so there's no issue there. But yeah, as you can see, once you get that initial slow or freeze or even the weaken, then you could start building up your stack. If you haven't been building it up before, your chances to get that slow or weaken or freeze is very low. Anyways, let's hop into a few more example runs here. Nice superior treasure, by the way. Now in this example here, we're using the Majika Cat and Psycho Cat combo. This time our main AoE attacker here is Crazed UFO and Drama Cats, and we have Crazed Dragon there just for the extra single target help as well. Once again, same thing applies here. In the beginning, just cripple the hippos as much as you can. Then you start slowly building up your cash here with Bahamut. Bahamut's attack being slow is helpful here. The one thing that is helpful with Bahamut's slow attack is being able to stack the cash here. Now in this run, as you can see, we don't have our crowd control units up here in time. We don't have our stack built up. What we're doing is trying to lure the moth out as much as possible. But as you can see, we pushed a little bit too hard in this run, which meant we didn't have a nice stack of crowd control units up there. So it was extremely risky trying to push forward that hard. So just make sure, if you are going to push forward hard in the beginning, you have to absolutely make sure you have the crowd control units. Otherwise, this will happen. Look, that Bahamut is dead. Wooden Wolf is dead. And now we are struggling. So it is a balancing act in the beginning, trying to push, but not push too hard, because you want to stack up your cash. You want to stack up your crowd control units. But at the same time, you hit the base too early, Bore comes out, shreds everything. If you hit the base too late, you hit the cat limit, Bore comes out, shreds everything. We were able to recover here thanks to Crazy UFO and of course our great Psycho Cat stack getting those slow procs off. Like I mentioned before, that general attacker slot is filled by many. There is countless of units that could play that role, but either will work in this stage. So yeah, there are countless of options. Make sure to keep that in mind. But yeah, after you kill Bore, it is a free win because there aren't that many threats. If you have Dragon, you could outrange the Moth very easily and take it out quickly. But yeah, on to the next example. Now this example is pretty funny because we are using a crowd control Uber for this stage. And that crowd control Uber is level 1. Even having a level 1 crowd control unit being an Uber is helpful as much as Bahamut, even arguably more than Bahamut here. Now of course it is going to help out tremendously if you do get these units leveled up, but I do highly recommend getting your key gacha units leveled up before your Ubers, especially if it's just crowd control units like this. And if you had a smart eye here, you could tell we did a different strategy here. We actually lured out Moth and then killed it first. So this means our level 1 crowd control Uber is in low risk of dying from the Moth here if Bore decides to push up. Now there will be another Moth that spawns, but by the time it does spawn, Bore should already be close to dead. And can you tell who made the lineup once again? Of course, Crazed Whale the GOAT. But yeah, look at this. At level 1, that crowd control is tremendously helpful. It has that guaranteed slow. Whatever crowd control unit you are using, even at level 1, they are viable. As long as you surround them with the right attackers, like here we got Drama Cats, we got Crazy UFO, we got Dragon Stack, so Bore is shredded right there. And can't forget about the GOAT Crazed Whale. So there's that. Crowd control units is OP in the stage for sure. But what if you don't have any crowd control Ubers? Well, you can use just high damage dealing Ubers paired with your other crowd control units. Here we are using a pretty aggressive lineup here. We're using Courier, we're using Balrog. We got Swimmer Cat. Swimmer is helpful in this stage because it has that high single target damage. It could rebound off of Bore's attacks, so it could get just tremendous amounts of damage as well. I don't think I even have to say this, but Courier does shred the stage as well, as you can see. Any of the pixies are very helpful in the stage, but yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. That is the Into the Future Chapter 2 Floating Continent Guide. Moon is coming up soon, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, we will be back for Moon soon. See ya!